this is the bust of Winston Churchill. This is an exact replica that we had made, and we actually had to call the chief historian of the White House and get them to send us photographs of it and measurements of it, so we could recreate it for this Oval Office. This is what the Oval Office looked like when George W. Bush was in it. It is dramatically changed, but the main thing that has changed since Barack Obama was in it is that bust, which was a gift from the British, our closest ally and friend. This was a gift from the British as well, the Resolute desk. That bust was taken out and boxed up and shipped back to England. It was a gift after the attacks of 9/11. And it was how it was done that bothered me and confused me. It was boxed up after the British Prime Minister said, no, Mr. President, that's a gift from the British people. And Barack Obama said, no, well, we don't need it. And he said, well, you put it in a museum. It was a gift from the British people. And what happened next was the Prime Minister left and Obama had it boxed up and shipped back. Well, we obviously couldn't get the original, so we had another one made and put it back where it belongs. But this is the key to the show tonight. This is where things for me, when they took it, go ahead, Wade, when they took it out of the Oval Office and they shipped it back to England, that's when things got confusing to me. But to me, that's where our journey begins. The only guy who I think gets it, and the key to him getting it is he was born in another country. And we've had him on the show several times before. But this is the only man I think that truly understands Obama. Because he had something most Americans don't. In a way, an anti-colonialist upbringing. This guy meant something to Dinesh D'Souza as a kid. This guy played a role. Director, co-writer Dinesh D'Souza, and executive producer of a new film, John Sullivan, are here. The new film is called 2016. I just watched it, as did every member of the audience just a few minutes ago. And it explains Barack Obama. Who here has a fuller understanding of Barack Obama after watching the film, right? How many people think that you have a friend that you can get to watch this film and it will change their mind? Really? Well, that gives me such hope. That gives me such hope. What is it that you think will change people's mind? What part? Becky?
I think it's because it comes from such an intellectual place and not like openly defiant, being very, oh my God, I don't like Obama because X. It's very, again, it's very intellectual, it's very easy to understand. It follows such a simple formula of just asking questions.
Right.
As opposed to saying...
I tried asking questions before. That doesn't necessarily not hack people off. Lindsay, yes.
I think knowledge is power, and the more they know about him, the more they'll be empowered to make their own. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, in the very back, yes.
I don't necessarily think it's going to change supporters' minds.
Yeah.
I do think it'll enlighten people that that know something is not right, but can't put their finger on it, and will reinforce for them when they're being told by the media that keep on moving, folks. Nothing's going on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me start with Dinesh. I didn't know this was the key, but I knew something was really, really wrong. Explain this.
Well, this man, Winston Churchill, is known to most Americans as the great fighter of the Nazis. We will fight them on the beaches. We will never surrender. And that's why Churchill is a bipartisan hero in America. But when I was growing up as a kid in Mumbai, in Bombay, we learned more about the other Churchill. And this was the Churchill who, from his young years, was a colonialist. He rode with the colonial armies in Afghanistan. He was with Lord Kitchener in the Sudan, a famous battle called Omdurman. Later, he became the colonial secretary in charge of all the colonies. Now, interestingly, with Churchill, when he met Gandhi, India's anti-colonial leader, Churchill said, "I will not be the prime minister to preside over the liquidation of the British Empire." And in the 1950s, when Obama's father was growing up, there was an anti-colonial uprising in Kenya. Obama's father was arrested, his grandfather was detained, and it was Winston Churchill who had been re-elected as Prime Minister of Britain. He sent in the British troops that crushed the anti-colonial uprising in Kenya. So Obama has good reason to hate this guy.
When you saw this go out of the Oval Office, most Americans, I still tell this story about this statue and that it's been shipped back, and how many people knew this story when you saw the film? I mean, that's amazing, because how many people watch, generally watch my show a lot, okay? So you watch my show a lot. I've talked about this story over and over again. Still, I run into a majority of Americans, they have no idea this happened. When it happened, I didn't know what it meant. How long, what did this say to you when you heard this story?
Well, the Churchill incident actually came to me after I had started thinking about the anti-colonialism of Barack Obama. The reason I got onto that topic was I started almost casually reading his autobiography, Dreams from My Father.
Keyword, from.
From my father, right? He's not talking about his father's dreams. These are the dreams that he, Obama, got from his dad.
Right.
And as I was thumbing through that book, I realized that this is not about Selma. It's not about the civil rights movement. Obama or his father didn't sit at segregated lunch counters. They're not descended from slaves. This is a third world story that moves from Hawaii to Indonesia to Kenya. And I realized, Obama's talking about rickshaws, lepers, kids crossing the road, the smells of funny types of food. And I'm like, wow. That's what I grew up. That's the familiar sounds and smells of the Bombay I was raised in. So as I began to think about Obama's ideology, when this incident came up, it became a sort of a test for me, a confirmation that I was on the right path, because to me the strength of a theory is this. Can it explain facts that no other theory can explain? So people will say, Obama's a Muslim, Obama's a socialist, Obama's this, Obama's that, but this theory, this fact, the Churchill bust, the anti-colonial theory explains, and all other theories fall short. So to me, it was an eye-opener.
Right. But it is, the anti-colonialists, I mean, his father and his mother were Marxist as well.
Well, remember that anti-colonialism burst on the world in the 50s and 60s, and the Cold War was raging, and for all these newly independent countries, they wanted to be anti-Western, anti-British. America had been coming to the forefront. So how do you be anti-Western? Who was America's enemy? The Soviet Union. So it became natural for all these guys to say, we're against these guys. We embrace the Soviets. We embrace socialism. We go the other way. And so Nehru went that way, Sukarno in Indonesia, Nkrumah in Ghana. This was the world I grew up in. My father felt this way. My grandfather felt this way. So when I read Barack Obama felt this way, I'm like, that's the way the world was for a lot of these people.
I want to talk a little bit about what's happened to your life since you did this. Since we had you on Fox, you put this story out, and they killed you for it. We'll talk about that a little bit. Why the heck would you get involved in this? I mean, this guy is a pariah. This is crazy.
I know. I keep unsavory friends, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
No, to me, it just seemed like a very interesting theory when I first read Dinesh's book. In fact, we were sitting at lunch one day, and we were talking about another project to do. I'd just done Expelled with Ben Stein, and we were talking about doing another project. And he said, hey, I'm going to write this book on Barack Obama. And I said, Dinesh, I would drop everything else, and I'd make that into a movie if you want to do that. And so that's kind of how this journey started. And even seeing all this, I think what pointed me in one direction was, when you start hearing people clamoring this much. What other writer has been attacked like Dinesh has?
Oh, yeah.
So suddenly, where there's smoke, there's fire. Like Dinesh was saying, suddenly they started making little facts, suddenly kind of pieced together a much larger picture.
That was the amazing thing is, Dinesh, we've spoken several times, and you know, you used to see me on Fox, and you must have just went, oh, geez, Glenn, you're missing it. But and that's the way I think we all feel. There's this that just doesn't make sense, and this that doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense. And so you keep trying to, Americans, keep trying to put it and jam it into the box, into things we understand. We understand communism. I thought it was dead, but it's not. You know, we start putting in that, and it's like, that doesn't really work. You start putting it in racist things. Well, that doesn't work. And so you don't have an answer. You don't have an answer.
Yeah, there are even conservatives who will say of Obama, you know, he's just a bungler. He's an amateur. He's an incompetent. He's never. They don't. So their point is he keeps getting results opposite to what he intends.
That's insane.
And I just step back and say, maybe he's getting the results he does intend.
Right.
That's an easier way to understand a man. So I think the big error with Obama on the right and the left is we all think we're having this policy debate among people who share goals. We all want America to be prosperous. We all want America to be strong. We all want America to be number one. We're just debating how to get there. The message of this film is, wait a minute, there may be one guy, and he happens to be the guy, who is outside that consensus, and for good reason, has a very different agenda.
When we come back, I want to ask that question, because that's the number one question of George Soros, of what I say about Barack Obama, what I say about Van Jones. They'll say, why? I mean, Glenn, they're successful. They make money. They've got all this power, blah, blah, blah. Why would they want the America that we understand and know destroyed? Answer that question when we come back.